and welcome to my presentation on nurse retention. Thank you for viewing. Introducing the topic on nurse retention. As we continue to struggle through a nursing shortage, it is very important to keep our current nurses in the workforce. Retaining qualified nurses and reducing turnover rates are costly and chronic struggles that many hospitals face, but it is extremely necessary. Nurse retention is a must. The objectives you will learn this presentation include define and discuss the issue of nurse retention, discuss the importance of retaining nurses, recognize the factors associated with nurse turnover, and discuss nurse burnout and turnover. So I provided some images to get you to start thinking about the topic. The first picture to the left is a guy adding retain to a checklist. Motivate, train, and hire are definitely three necessary objectives in getting staff for an organization, but retain needs to be a main objective as well, as it is just as important as the other three. The picture next to that with the magnet is not only visually representing retention by magnetic field, but I also think of it as magnet status for a hospital. In order for a hospital to have this status, the nursing care must be high quality. So the patients are receiving good quality care, and often that has an effect on nursing job satisfaction, therefore improving retention rates. And the last image with the linked arms to me represents a good team and a safe work environment, which in itself greatly influences retention. To define the topic, nurse retention is the ability of an organization to retain its employees. So retention is happening when organizations are creating an environment where the staff want to stay. Why nurse retention? What are the benefits? Well, there are many. Patient safety and satisfaction, improved staffing levels, decreased turnover, positive work environments, job satisfaction, high quality patient care, experienced staff, leadership, and less burnout. Reducing turnover. What is employee turnover? Turnover is defined as the number of staff members who vacate a position. How do we reduce it? By starting with recruitment and selection, we can begin to reduce turnover. But to continue it, we must have motivation and development of staff. Reducing turnover continued. Job satisfaction is the number one indicator in the likelihood of an individual to remain in a position, making it a significant factor in nurse turnover. Why reduce turnover? It costs a lot of money. Not only is there the expense of hiring a new nurse, which includes recruiting, selection, orientation, and on-the-job training, but there is also the expense of replacing the nurse and filling their holes directly after they leave. That includes paying other nurses overtime to fill the vacancy, or paying temporary replacement staff, who are much more expensive than the unit staff. Not only does this cost a lot of money, but it also causes stress on the unit, which may lead to a turnover spiral, where multiple nurses leave at once. Therefore, nursing turnover must be better understood and more effectively controlled. Nurse turnover is extremely costly, with estimates from $42,000 for a medical surgical nurse to $80,000 to hire and orient a specialty nurse. If you look at the chart, you can see the national RN turnover rate to be 13 to 23%. But if you look at the green bar, that shows the new grad turnover rate within their first year, which is much higher, 35 to 61%. This is clearly an issue. Nurse burnout is another serious issue impacting retention. What is burnout? It is a form of stress reaction which typically arises from work conditions that feature intense levels of stress. It is highly prevalent in the nursing profession because of the high stress environment. High nurse burnout is associated with decreased quality of patient care, which leads to exacerbate nurses' intentions to leaving, which decreases retention rates. So when nurses are burnt out, patient care isn't as high quality, which causes nurses to have job dissatisfaction, making them want to leave, and making poor retention rates. There are a lot of factors that lead to burnout, some of which include high workload, demanding patients, poor working environment, lack of social support, and low work involvement. Let's take a look at the burnout cycle. In the upper right-hand corner, burnout leads to nursing turnover, then a nursing shortage and inadequate staffing levels, which causes job dissatisfaction and more burnout. Not a very good cycle. Burnout affects up to 80% of nurses. That is a very high percentage. So now we are going to watch a little animation on nurse burnout.
Sounds terrible. Do you have any physical symptoms? Yes. My sinuses are killing me. My back hurts. Too expensive. Too fish. That's me. Chips. By all means, let me help you with that. I don't think anyone can help me. I'm confused. Can you get me Roxy Clinton? Let's talk in a minute. Have you taken anything for your sinus trouble? Nothing is working. I've taken Benadryl is working. I started to organic grabs a Sudafed and then finished one nasal spray. And I drank Vertatius like it. Nothing has worked. Can you help me? Let's see. Can you get Roxy Clinton from the back out? I have so many names. I'm so sorry. I thought perhaps I was just having a nightmare. So, how do your sinuses feel now? Maybe they are a little better now. That is so weird. Can you get me Roxy Clinton? Does your back still hurt? Oh my god, it is killing me. I really need some Roxy Clinton right now. Can you get me Roxy Clinton? was just the first patient of the day.
So that was an example of a very demanding patient, and I'm sure we've all had some of those. So now I have some statistics on nurse burnout from the ANA. The image on the left shows us 1 in 3 nurses report inadequate staffing. 2 in 5 units are short-staffed. 54% of nurses report excessive workloads. 96 out of 100 nurses report fatigue at the beginning of their shift. And half of nurses say they spend an insufficient amount of time with their patients. I think nurse retention is necessary. I think the answer to retaining nurses is simple. Like I said in the beginning of the presentation, create an environment where nurses or staff want to stay. All of the statistics on the left side are a part of a poor nursing environment. And unfortunately, that is almost everywhere in nursing. Staffing is bad because of the shortage, but this needs to change. Nurse retention needs to become a priority, and improved staffing and nurse-to-patient ratios need to be better managed in the hospitals. Thank you for watching my presentation. Here are my references.